How's it going, everyone? This is Kevin. Today I want to bring you along with me to test out the Nikon D3200, an entry-level DSLR, versus the Sony A7Rii, an entry-level full-frame camera, and see if you can tell the difference. So let's jump right into it. So my main thing that I want to test out today is just using it for portraits, because that's mainly a lot of the things that I use the cameras for. So I want to see how the D3200 from Nikon handles against a Sony A7Rii. The main reason why I want to compare it is because the price one for the D3200 right now, since it's an older one, you can get one used probably around $200. And the Sony A7Rii, since it is a older model from the A7R series, I think it'd be cool to compare it to see a little bit more of the higher full frame kind of style, which is not fully like all the way to the R3 or R4. So to see what the differences might be. Obviously, one of them is going to be full frame, the Sony A7Rii, and the crop sensor would be the D3200. So I'm going to be using the perspective focal length for each other. I'm going to have in this D3200, I have the 55-200 kit lens that it came with. So I'm going to be using it at 55, which roughly comes out to like about 88 focal length. And on the A7Rii, I'm going to be doing the 85. So I'm going to be doing a couple photos, and I'm going to be using my wife as the model. And I'm not going to show you right off the bat which one. I'm just going to show you some B-roll footage, but I'm not going to tell you which photo is yet, so that you can just see the photo one first, then the second one, and then side by side, and see which one you think it is, and then let you know which one it is at the end. So let's get to taking some photos and see if you can tell the difference. So there you go. Those are the two photos side by side, and now I told you which one it is. Was your guess correct, or could you not tell a difference? Obviously, I think there's going to be a great difference in the dynamic range. I currently have not seen the post work of the photos, but I kind of have a guess of what would be the ideal thing just from looking at from the behind of the screen of each camera. It's not going to be high resolution to see what they look like from there, but it's still pretty obvious to see which one retains better information from the dynamic range aspect. One of them's a lot cheaper camera, and it's also APS-C, and the other one, well, it's known for a little bit of better dynamic range, aka the Sony kind of reigns over that. But for a $200 camera that you can get used, I think you can do pretty great things with this camera itself. Even if you're just out there taking some photos and shooting some nice portraits or anything in between, just using any camera whatsoever is better than none. So with that said, if you're just wanting to dive yourself into a little bit more of a more professional camera, getting yourself a used camera that's like $200 or so is not the worst way to go to start diving yourself deeper into the professional world of cameras. You can also do this with your phone if you want to get those kind of like apps to kind of control it, start learning your ISO, your aperture, and everything like that. So it is what it is. It's whatever works best for you if you want to invest a little bit in yourself. I wanted to keep these photos as similar as possible, whether it came down with using it the same f-stop and everything like that, just to kind of show you a little side-by-side comparison to see if I could trick you a little bit and also show you as close as possible to one another. So one thing Sony is very known for, obviously, is retaining information in the shadows and the highlights, obviously with their dynamic range. So I kind of just want to put this camera as well into that kind of same aspect to see how much information I can bring back. So I'm just going to take like a very underexposed photo of here in the parking garage just to see if I can bring back the information. I won't be able to know obviously until I get into basically editing these photos, but I thought it'd be a cool little test to show you, and that way I can do a little voiceover to let you know my thoughts once I'm back editing these photos. going to also show you some random photos that I decided to take right now with both cameras and just kind of put it up on screen and then tell you a little bit after which camera was used. So that way you can kind of see if you can tell with your bare naked eye. They're not going to necessarily be the same side-by-side kind of photos, just to kind of keep you guessing. But yeah, so we'll test them out right now and see how they look. Alright, we're here in Lightroom. I wanted to show you a little bit of the comparisons of the photos side by side and the befores and afters to kind of show you how good this camera is for the price point. The Nikon D3200 is not a horrible camera as you would like it to be. Still, I'm not the hugest fan of Nikon, but it's still a great camera overall compared to the Sony A7Rii. So here is a photo that is the Nikon D3200. So this is the before and this is the after. I'm going to be showing you side by side to the comparison of this photo with the Sony photo that I wanted to compare it side by side to show you a little bit of kind of the zoomed in of both angles of the photo, just to show you a little bit of the quality. One thing actually with the Nikon, it retained a little bit more sharpness in the face, mainly because I think it just got a little bit better on the focus side, which is fine. The Sony lens that I was using and with the Sony A7Rii, sometimes it hunts a little bit, which, look at it this way, I mean, it's a $1,500 camera versus a $200 camera, and to me the $200 camera kind of had a little bit better sharpness. So right here I like the sharpness in her eyes. This one got a little bit soft and blurry, but that's okay. It's not too horrible from afar. Like, you can't really tell that much, especially if you're going to upload it to social media. Nobody's going to tell a difference. But I wanted to show you a little bit of the side-by-side comparisons from the Nikon versus the Sony camera. So here is a Sony photo of the after, and this is the before of it. So I wanted to show you a little bit of the information that it was able to retain. I also had this photo that is this one, I believe, that I overexposed just to kind of see if I could bring back information. So that is the before and that is the after, showing you a little bit of how much information the Sony dynamic range has, which is something pretty great in my opinion. So we're going to move on to the parking garage. This is the Nikon photo, so that's how much I underexposed it to kind of more exposed for the bricks at the end, and show you the after. One thing that I want to do is kind of put the side by side with the Sony photo right here. I mean, to be honest, there's not much of a difference when it comes down to the quality, in my opinion, unless you're like pixel peeping a little bit and you start kind of comparing like, oh, okay, let's put it side by side. There's a little bit more grain in the Nikon versus the Sony, which is not a horrible thing in my opinion. Like, it's not going to be that noticeable if you're posting this photo online somewhere. So don't be pixel peeping too much and overthinking it. I mean, a $200 camera took the photo that looks exactly the same as a $1,500 camera. So I wanted to show you a little bit of the dynamic range that it came down with these last two photos that you're seeing. Here is the before of this Nikon photo with the after. So it's pretty great to see how much information it retained and how much just quality it actually had for not really putting too much grain on it, for bringing back that information. Same thing with this photo right here. This is the before and this is the after. To see how much information you can bring back with a $200 camera from the Nikon, that's pretty wild to me. And I mean, the grain itself is not horrible. I mean, you can even use it stylistically like that. So overall, pretty great comparison from a $200 camera to a $1,500 camera. So yeah, I just wanted to compare a little bit of the portrait photo and also a little bit of the dynamic range, just to do a quick little test. Nothing too crazy when it comes down to this test, but just to see if it could help you out a little bit with your decision if you want to start investing more into photography, or if you should dive into a more entry-level camera, just to start basically just learning more about the camera itself until you feel comfortable enough to spend more money. One thing right off the bat, obviously knowing with these cameras and how much older they are, is how much they can slow you down if you're not used to using a slower camera. Obviously, I have a lot faster cameras with my Sony A7Rii and my Sony A7R3 that I usually use for when it comes to shoots. I noticed that they're a lot faster than these cameras, so obviously for me, it does feel like I'm slowing myself down. So basically what you can take it as, if you're not used to using a professional camera, this will be a great thing to learn more, and it'll help you kind of not rush things because you can't really go too fast, which is kind of makes you think a little bit more. But also, I mean, eventually you can look into getting a more faster entry-level DSLR or mirrorless camera that could help you out. I mean, I used to have the Sony A6000, which is a great camera for starting with photography, and it's relatively fast. So I thought I would leave you with that input because I noticed that myself when I was using these cameras right now and taking these photos for you guys. So there you go. That concludes our little test here to compare the Nikon D32 and my Sony A7R2. This will help you hopefully to understand that you might not need the most expensive camera out there to get started and just start diving into understanding camera gear to become more professional. I think the D3200 does the job great. I mean, I used to do it when I was first diving into photography after I had my Canon camera stolen. This is my dad's camera and I was using it, and it helped me to understand a lot more about photography and videography itself by using just an entry-level DSLR. It didn't cost too much money, so if you're looking for one, you can get one used probably around $200. So might as well look into buying one yourself if you want to dive into the professional world of photography. It took me a long road to get into getting all the gear that I have today, so be patient and just keep learning every single day that you can. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.